Chosen one, why are you still here? No, really, answer me honestly. Why didn't God take you home 10 years ago when your spouse passed? Why are you still breathing when friends half your age are already gone? Why does your heart keep beating when everything you prayed for seems buried in yesterday? Chosen one, if your eyes found this message today, heaven has something to say to you, and it cannot wait. Stop right there, don't scroll, don't look away, because what I'm about to tell you will shatter every lie you've been whispering to yourself in the dark hours when sleep won't come and loneliness sits heavy on your chest like a stone. You think you're winding down. You think your best chapters are written, your purpose expired, your prayers too late. You've convinced yourself that December 6 will be just another Friday, another day of checking the mailbox for cards that never come, another evening of reruns, another night wondering if your grandchildren even remember your name. But God just leaned down from his throne and said, "Not this time." Listen to me carefully. Your life right now is like a winter field, cold, silent, seemingly dead. The world looks at you and sees barren ground. Your own mirror whispers forgotten, but I see something they don't. Beneath that frozen surface, seeds are stirring, divine seeds that have been waiting 70, 80, 90 years for this exact moment. December 6 is not circled on your calendar by accident. Heaven marked that date before you were born. Before we go deeper, I want to pause and thank every single one of you who has supported this message through super thanks. Your generosity means more than you know. You're not just giving, you're helping spread light to others who feel alone in their calling. Whether you give or not, I'm deeply grateful for your presence here. Your support, your time, your attention, it all matters. And if this message resonates with your soul, go ahead and sow that seed of faith. Now hear me. Before this message ends, I will reveal the 7 miracles God is sending on December 6. But the first miracle has already started, the miracle of divine interruption. The fact that you're still watching, that's not algorithm. That's assignment. If your spirit already feels something stirring, if something in your chest just woke up after years of sleep, type Amen in the comments so heaven knows you are listening. Because December 6 will not be a normal day. Heaven has circled it. And you are the reason why. Why does your heart still ache for something you can't name? Why do you wake at 3 a.m. feeling like you're waiting for a phone call that never comes? Why, after all these years of faithful service, does your soul feel like it's standing at a locked door with no key in sight? Let me tell you something that's going to shake the foundation of every doubt you've been carrying. December 6 is not just another square on your calendar between Thanksgiving leftovers and Christmas shopping. December 6 is a doorway, a thin place, a divine pause in time where heaven leans so close to earth you can almost hear the rustle of angel wings. You see, dear one, there are moments in history when the veil between the eternal and the temporal grows paper thin, when God interrupts ordinary days with extraordinary purpose. And you, yes, you sitting there wondering if your best years are archived in dusty photo albums, you are standing at the threshold of such a moment. Think about Moses, 80 years old, tending sheep in the wilderness, convinced his life had plateaued into predictable obscurity. Just another Tuesday, just another flock, just another slow march toward an unremarkable grave. But then Exodus 3:2 tells us the angel of the Lord appeared to him in flames of fire from within a bush. God didn't send an engraved invitation. He didn't schedule a committee meeting. He interrupted an ordinary day and set it on fire with purpose. That burning bush moment, it wasn't for Moses' youth. It was scheduled for his 80s. The age when the world says you're done. The age when society whispers retire, relax, retreat. But God said, now you're ready. Now you've lived enough, lost enough, learned enough to carry what I'm about to place in your hands. December 6 carries that same weight. Something is scheduled for you. Something whispered, not shouted. And if you miss the signs, beloved, you may miss the blessing heaven has been preparing since before your first breath. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking you've heard promises before. You've circled dates on calendars that came and went like every other day. You've believed for breakthroughs that felt like breakdowns. You've stood on faith until your spiritual knees buckled under the weight of waiting. And now here I am, another voice telling you to hope again. But hear me clearly. This isn't about hype. This is about alignment. God's timing has not failed you. It's been aligning you. Every closed door you've walked away from crying, that was redirection. Every prayer that seemed to bounce off the ceiling, that was preparation. Every season when you felt invisible, that was God hiding you like He hid David in caves, like He hid Moses in the desert, like He hid Jesus in Egypt, not to forget you, but to protect what He was building inside you until the appointed time. The Hebrew word for God's timing is mod. It means appointed time, divine appointment, sacred assembly. It's the same word used for the Jewish feasts, those holy intersections when heaven and earth touched, when miracles happened, when destinies shifted. December 6 carries that frequency. It's a Moed moment wrapped in an ordinary Friday. But here's what breaks my heart. So many of God's chosen ones will miss it because they've stopped watching. They've stopped believing that their winter can bloom. They've accepted the world's narrative that says at 70, 80, 90 years old, you're supposed to fade quietly into the background while younger generations take the stage. That's a lie straight from hell. You are not behind schedule. You are not late to your own destiny. You are not past your expiration date. Heaven doesn't operate on social security timelines. In fact, Scripture shows us again and again that He saves some of His most powerful moves for those the world has written off. Abraham was 99 when God renewed His covenant. Sarah was 90 when she birthed nations. Anna the prophetess was 84 when she recognized the Messiah that everyone else walked past. Caleb was 85 when he said, "Give me this mountain, not give me this rocking chair, not give me this retirement community, give me this mountain." Right now, as these words wash over your spirit, something is shifting in the atmosphere around your life. You feel it, don't you? That flutter in your chest, that quickening in your spirit, that sense that you're not just watching a video, you're standing at a crossroads. December 6 is your burning bush moment. The question is, will you take off your shoes and step onto holy ground? Or will you walk past it like every other day? Stay with me. Because before this message ends, you need to understand why 7 miracles, why December 6, and why you, out of billions of souls on this planet, were chosen to hear this word today. Your survival wasn't an accident. Your longevity isn't just good genetics. You've been kept, preserved, sustained for such a time as this. So let me ask you one more time. Are you ready to stop merely surviving and start receiving what God has been storing up for you? You know what nobody talks about in church? The years that felt like silence. The decades when your prayers seemed to bounce off a concrete ceiling and fall back into your lap like returned mail marked address unknown. I'm talking to the grandmother who prayed for her prodigal son for 37 years. 37 years of the same prayer, the same tears, the same empty chair at Thanksgiving. I'm talking to the grandfather who asked God for financial breakthrough in 1987 and watched bill collectors knock on his door until 2019. I'm talking to every single one of you who has whispered in the dark, "God, did you forget my name?" Let me ask you something that cuts deep. Why didn't He answer you at 40 when you still had strength? Why didn't He move at 50 when you still had time? Why did He make you wait until 70, 80, until your hair turned silver and your hands started shaking and the world decided you were invisible? Here's what's going to wreck you tonight. Those silent years? They weren't God ignoring you, they were God preparing you. Think about Moses, 80 years old before God called him from a burning bush. 80. He spent 40 years thinking he was somebody in Pharaoh's palace, then 40 years thinking he was nobody in the desert. But God was doing something in that wilderness that the palace could never accomplish. He was burning away Moses' pride, his self-reliance, his need to be impressive. Because you can't deliver a nation when you're still trying to prove yourself. Your silent years have been your burning bush years. The fire didn't destroy you, it refined you. I want you to picture something with me. Imagine a stained glass window in one of those old brownstone churches here in Brooklyn. Beautiful, right? All those colors catching the morning light, telling stories of saints and angels. But you know what that window looked like before it became art? Broken glass, shattered pieces, fragments that looked like trash. That's you, beloved. Your past struggles, that divorce that shattered your world, that bankruptcy that broke your pride, that diagnosis that cracked your faith, those weren't destructions. Those were preparations. Because broken glass becomes stained glass when the master's hand arranges the pieces, and when the light shines through. Breathtaking. Ecclesiastes 3:11 says, "He has made everything beautiful in its time, not in your time, in His time." And His time required your breaking before your beauty could emerge. But here's what I need you to understand. The delay wasn't just about making you wait. It was about making you ready. See, if God had given you what you prayed for back in 1985, you wouldn't have had the character to handle it. The blessing would have destroyed you. The breakthrough would have broken you. You weren't mature enough, deep enough, surrendered enough. You wanted the crown at 30. God knew you needed the cave first. David was anointed king as a teenager, but he didn't touch the throne until he was 30 years old. 15 years of running, hiding, being hunted like an animal by the very king he was destined to replace. Do you think David understood why God made him wait? Do you think those cave years made any sense to him? But 1 Samuel 24 shows us something stunning. David had the chance to kill Saul twice. His men told him, "This is your moment. God delivered your enemy into your hands," but David refused. Why? Because the cave had taught him something the throne never could. It taught him that God's timing matters more than human opportunity. Those silent years taught you the same lesson. They taught you patience when the world screams instant gratification. They taught you dependence when society worships independence. They taught you that God's delays are not His denials, they're His protection. You've been asking, why did it take so long? But heaven has been answering, because what I'm giving you requires what you've become. The grandmother who prayed 37 years for her son, she's not the same woman who started praying. The waiting transformed her from a panicked mother into an intercessor with authority. When her son finally comes home, he won't just find a mom, he'll find a warrior who learned to trust God in the dark. The grandfather who waited decades for breakthrough. He's not the same man who first asked. The struggle stripped away his pride, his self-sufficiency, his illusion of control. When the blessing finally comes, it won't feed his ego, it will fund his legacy. Your silent years are the very reason you will recognize the 7 miracles when they appear on December 6. Because only someone who's been tested by time can spot the fingerprints of God. Only someone who's walked through decades of waiting can discern between human coincidence and divine appointment. The years you thought were wasted were the years heaven was building you. Every tear watered the ground for this harvest. Every disappointment was digging the well for this overflow. Every closed door was redirecting you toward the door that's about to open. And that door? It's marked December 6. But you're not stepping through it as the person you were. You're stepping through as the person the silence made you. Battle-tested, fire-proven, unshakable, ready. So the question isn't, why did God take so long? The question is, now that you know what the waiting was building, are you finally ready to receive what it was building toward? You want to know why you woke up at 3:47 a.m. last Tuesday. Why your chest felt tight, not with pain, but with something you couldn't name. Why you've been staring out your kitchen window longer than usual, watching the birds, feeling like something's different. That wasn't insomnia, beloved. That was announcement. Heaven doesn't send registered letters. It doesn't knock politely on your door and wait for you to answer. No, when God is about to move in your life, He shifts the atmosphere first. He changes the air pressure in your spirit before the storm of blessing breaks loose. And right now, as I'm speaking these words, the first miracle is already in motion. Miracle has shown the shift in atmosphere. Let me ask you something that's going to cut deep. Have you noticed lately that the silence in your house feels fuller? That even your loneliness carries a strange weight, not heavy, but present, like someone's been sitting in the room with you, even when you're alone? That's not your mind playing tricks. That's the Spirit of the living God repositioning himself in your space. Exodus 14:19 tells us that the angel of God, who had been traveling in front of Israel's army, withdrew and went behind them. Did you catch that? Before God parted the Red Sea, he moved his presence. He shifted position. The Israelites felt it before they saw it, that strange mix of peace and restlessness, comfort and holy anticipation. You've been feeling that too, haven't you? Some mornings you wake up with unexplainable peace. Other days you're restless, not anxious, but alive in a way you haven't felt in years. Your hands want to do something. Your heart wants to hope again. Your spirit keeps whispering, "Pay attention, something's coming." The world would call that aging nerves or changing hormones. But I'm telling you, that's the atmosphere shifting. That's the wind changing direction before the rain of provision falls. That's God moving furniture in the invisible realm, making room for what he's about to deliver into your natural world. If you felt this shift, this strange mix of peace and holy restlessness, you're not losing your mind. You're gaining your miracle. Miracle #2. The unexpected message. Now here's where it gets personal, and I need you to listen with more than your ears. How long has it been since someone reached out to you first? How many times have you picked up that phone, scrolled through those contacts, and put it back down because you don't want to be a burden? How many birthdays have passed with nothing but a generic text, if that? But watch what's about to happen. Between now and December 6, someone is going to contact you, out of nowhere. An old friend you haven't heard from in decades, a family member who's been distant, a phone call that makes you check the screen twice because you can't believe who's calling, an email, a letter, a knock on your door that you weren't expecting, and you're going to wonder, why now? Why after all this time? I'll tell you why. Because when God decides to restore you, he doesn't just change your circumstances, he repositions your relationships. He reminds people of your name. He puts you back on hearts that forgot you existed. 1 Samuel 1:19 says, "The Lord remembered Hannah, not because she was special, because her time had come." For years, Hannah was overlooked, mocked, forgotten. But when God's appointed moment arrived, suddenly she wasn't invisible anymore. Suddenly, her prayers had weight. Suddenly, what seemed closed burst wide open. You've been Hannah, haven't you? Praying in silence, weeping where no one could see, wondering if anyone, including God, still remembers your name. But chosen one, the miracle of unexpected connection is already in motion. Someone is thinking about you right now. Someone is about to reach out, and it won't be random, it will be divine appointment. The phone that never rings, it's about to matter again. Miracle #3, the internal awakening. But here's the miracle that will shake you most, because it's already happening inside you right now. You know that thing you've been feeling? That sudden surge of, "I'm not done yet"? That strange burst of energy that has no medical explanation? That spark of hope that keeps flickering even when logic says, "Give up"? That's not delusion, dear one. That's resurrection power activating in your mortal body. Romans 8:11 declares, "If the spirit of him who raised Jesus from the dead is living in you, he who raised Christ from the dead will also give life to your mortal bodies because of his Spirit who lives in you." Your mortal body. Right now, at 73, at 86, at 92, something is waking up in you that the world declared dead. Dreams you buried are pushing through the soil. Strength you thought was gone is flooding back. Purpose you surrendered is knocking on your chest from the inside, demanding to be let out. This isn't false hope. This is prophetic awakening. And if you felt it even for a moment, that's confirmation that you're carrying something too big to stay dormant any longer. If you've felt this awakening already, if something in your spirit just stood up after years of sitting down, comment 777 to seal it in faith. Let heaven see that you recognize what's stirring. Because here's what you need to understand. These 3 miracles don't come to those who are lucky. They come to those who are chosen. And if you're experiencing even one of them, that's proof that December 6 isn't just another day on your calendar. It's a divine appointment with your name written in the clouds. But these are only the first 3. And what I'm about to show you next will explain why all of this is happening now and what God is actually preparing you to receive. You've been robbed, haven't you? Not by a stranger with a mask, by time itself, by circumstances you couldn't control, by people you trusted who walked away, by dreams that died so quietly you didn't even get to say goodbye. That promotion that went to someone younger, that inheritance that somehow vanished, that relationship with your daughter that's been cold for 15 years, that business you poured your soul into that crumbled overnight, that health you took for granted until the doctor said words that changed everything. You've carried the weight of loss so long, you've forgotten what it feels like to receive. But what if I told you that on December 6, God is staging the greatest heist in history, and He's stealing back everything the enemy took from you? Miracle, #4, divine reversal. Listen to me carefully, chosen one. There is something, one specific thing that was taken from you years ago, maybe decades ago. You've made peace with never seeing it again. You've told yourself it doesn't matter anymore. You've buried that hope so deep you convinced yourself it was dead. But God never forgets what belongs to His children. Job understood this better than most. The Bible says in Job 42:10, "The Lord restored his fortunes and gave him twice as much as he had before." Twice as much. But here's what nobody tells you about Job's story. God didn't restore him immediately after his suffering ended. There was a season of waiting. A season when Job had to trust that God was working behind the scenes, orchestrating a reversal so complete that everyone who witnessed it would know only the Almighty could have done it. You've been living in Job's in-between season. The suffering has ended, but the restoration hasn't manifested yet. You can feel it in your bones, something's shifting. That check you weren't expecting. That phone call from someone you thought you'd never hear from again. That medical report that doesn't make logical sense. That's not coincidence. That's divine reversal beginning to materialize. I'm talking to the grandmother whose son stopped speaking to her 8 years ago over something she can't even remember clearly anymore. December 6 is marked for reconciliation. I'm talking to the man who lost his pension when the company went under in 2008 and has been scraping by ever since. December 6 is marked for unexpected provision. I'm talking to the woman who was passed over, pushed aside, made to feel invisible. December 6 is marked for vindication. The enemy thought he won when he took those things from you. But he made one fatal mistake he didn't account for, a God who specializes in the impossible. Miracle. #5 Restoration of honor. Now let me ask you something that might cut deep. When was the last time someone really saw you? When was the last time your opinion mattered in a room full of people? When was the last time your children actually listened instead of just nodding politely while checking their phones? You've become invisible in your own story, haven't you? The world has a cruel way of discarding people once they hit a certain age. Suddenly, your wisdom becomes old-fashioned, your experience becomes outdated, your presence becomes something to tolerate rather than celebrate. They put you in a corner, pat you on the head, and expect you to fade quietly into the wallpaper of their busy lives. But heaven doesn't operate by earth's calendar. And what God honors, no man can dishonor. Remember Joseph? Genesis 41 tells us he went from prisoner to prime minister in a single afternoon. One moment he's rotting in an Egyptian dungeon, forgotten by the very people he helped. The next moment, Pharaoh is placing his signet ring on Joseph's finger and draping him in robes of honor. Verse 43 says, "They had him ride in a chariot as his second in command, and people shouted before him, 'Make way! Make way!' Those two words are about to become your reality. On December 6, God is restoring your honor in the sight of everyone who dismissed you. That family member who stopped calling, they're going to need your wisdom desperately. That community that overlooked you, they're going to recognize what they missed, that position you were denied. God is creating something better that has your name already written on it. You survived things that should have taken you out, betrayals that would have destroyed weaker souls, financial devastation that would have made others quit, health battles that had doctors shaking their heads. You're still here not because you're lucky, but because you're marked for honor. The disrespect stops on December 6. Miracle, #6 revelation of hidden protection. But here's the miracle that's going to leave you on your knees in grateful tears. God is about to pull back the curtain and show you something that will shatter you in the most beautiful way. You're going to see how many times He saved you when you didn't even know you needed saving. That job you didn't get in 1987. The company filed for bankruptcy 3 years later. Everyone lost everything. That relationship that broke your heart in your 50s, that person is now on their 4th marriage, leaving destruction everywhere they go. It was a scam that destroyed families. Every closed door was divine protection. Every rejection was redirection. Every delay was God's hand holding you back from stepping into traffic you couldn't see coming. Psalm 91:11 declares, "For He will command His angels concerning you to guard you in all your ways." You think you've been walking alone, but you've had an invisible security detail your entire life. December 6 is when God opens your spiritual eyes to see the battles He fought on your behalf while you slept, the accidents that almost happened, the illnesses that almost developed, the disasters that almost struck. You survived, not because you were strong enough, but because He was faithful enough. Nothing the enemy took will remain stolen. Nothing he planned will stand. Nothing he whispered about your future will come to pass. If you receive these miracles, if something in your spirit is already confirming that this word is for you, whisper it right now in the comments, "I'm ready, Lord." Because what's coming next will require you to have room in your hands to receive it. And that means you're about to discover why everything you've been holding on to needs to finally let go. Listen to me, chosen one. We've walked through 6 miracles together, but what I'm about to tell you now will shake the very foundation of every limitation you've accepted about your life. The 7th miracle isn't just another blessing, it's the convergence. It's the moment when provision, purpose, and peace collide in your life, like 3 rivers meeting at once, creating a flood so powerful that everything barren in your existence suddenly becomes fertile ground. But before I reveal what's coming on December 6, I need you to answer something honestly. How long have you been living like your story is over? How many mornings have you woken up wondering if today even matters? How many nights have you gone to bed thinking, "This is it. Just counting down now until I go home"? You've been lied to. The enemy has convinced you that 70, 80, 90 years means the curtain is closing, that your final act is just a slow fade to black, that the best you can hope for is to not be a burden, to not cause trouble, to just exist quietly until heaven calls your name. But that's not what God said. That's not what Scripture declares. That's not what December 6 is about to prove. Look at Abraham. Genesis 21 tells us he was 100 years old. 100 when Isaac was born. Not when he received the promise. When it manifested. When he held the miracle in his weathered hands and laughed at everyone who said he was too old for God to use. Look at Moses. Exodus 7:7 records, he was 80 years old when he stood before Pharaoh. 80, the age when the world says you should be in a rocking chair, and God said, "Now you're ready to split seas and shake empires." Look at Anna the prophetess. Luke 2:36-37 tells us she was 84 years old, spending day and night in the temple. And it was she, not the young priests, not the powerful Pharisees, it was Anna who recognized the Messiah when Mary and Joseph brought him through those doors. Her age wasn't her limitation, it was her credential. So, why have you believed that your years disqualify you instead of authorize you? The seventh miracle is this: God is about to return everything the locust has eaten. Not some things, not a few blessings here and there. Everything. Joel 2:25 declares, "I will restore to you the years that the swarming locust has eaten." And December 6 is when that restoration begins to manifest in dimensions you can see, touch, and live in. Provision. You've been struggling financially, haven't you? Counting pennies, checking your bank account with dread, wondering if Social Security will cover the medications this month. You've been ashamed to tell your children you need help. You've skipped meals so you could send birthday money to grandchildren who forgot to call on your birthday. But I hear the Spirit saying, the season of lack is over. December 6 marks the beginning of supernatural provision, not lottery, not wishful thinking. Divine realignment of resources that have been blocked, delayed, and stolen. That check that should have come through in 1987. That inheritance that was mishandled. That opportunity you missed because you were taking care of everyone else. God's accounting department doesn't forget. And the recompense is coming. Purpose. You felt useless, haven't you? Like the world moved on without you. Like your opinions don't matter. Like your presence is tolerated but not valued. You watch your grandchildren glued to screens, speaking a language you don't understand, living in a world that feels foreign to your spirit. And you've wondered, did my life mean anything? Did I make a difference? Was there a point to all those years of faithfulness? Let me tell you something that will wreck every lie. Your purpose doesn't expire when your body slows down. It activates. Because the wisdom you carry, the prayers you've prayed, the faithfulness you've demonstrated through decades of fire that's currency in heaven's economy. And God is about to position you as the elder voice this generation desperately needs. Not on stages, not in spotlights, in living rooms, over phone calls, through prayers that shift spiritual atmospheres. December 6 is when you stop feeling irrelevant and start walking in the authority you've earned through survival. Peace. Oh, this one cuts deepest, doesn't it? You haven't had peace in years. That anxiety that wakes you at 3 a.m., that loneliness that sits in your chest like a stone, that grief that never quite leaves, that fear about what happens next to your health, to your independence, to your dignity. But Philippians 4-7 promises, the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds. December 6 is when that peace stops being a verse you've memorized and becomes a reality you experience. The kind of peace that makes no logical sense given your circumstances. The kind that makes people ask, how are you so calm? And you'll smile and say, because I finally stopped trying to control everything and let God be God. Picture this. Your life right now is a house that's been dark and silent for too long. Empty rooms, cold walls, echoes of what used to be. But December 6 is the day every light suddenly flickers on, warmth floods back, laughter returns, purpose walks through the door, provision fills the pantry. Peace settles over everything like a blanket of heaven itself. Your story is not closing, chosen one. Your story is climaxing. This is not your epilogue. This is your finest chapter. December 6 is the day heaven begins. Your turnaround, not because you earned it, but because God marked you before time began for such a time as this. But here's the question that will determine everything. When these three rivers converge in your life, when provision, purpose, and peace come flooding in at once, will you be ready to receive what you've been praying for? You know what the enemy whispers to you at 3 in the morning, when your body aches and sleep won't come. He whispers that you're too old, that your season has passed, that God's moved on to younger vessels with sharper minds and stronger bodies. He tells you that December 6 might be special for someone else, but not for you, because your best days are already written in obituaries you haven't published yet. That voice has been lying to you for so long, you've started to believe it's your own. But let me tell you something that's going to crack open every limitation you've accepted about your life. Moses was 80 years old, 80, when God called his name from a burning bush, not 79, and still figuring things out, 80. The age when society says you should be watching game shows and waiting for dinner at 4:30. But God looked at Moses and said, "Now you're ready. Now you have what I need." You want to know what God needed? He needed someone who had failed, someone who had run away, someone who stuttered when he spoke and trembled when he stood. He needed someone the world had already counted out, because only then could heaven count in. Sarah was 90 when she gave birth to nations. 90. Her womb had been dead for decades. Medical science would have laughed, common sense would have walked away. But God specializes in resurrections that defy logic, and He's about to do it again through you. You think your prayers are too late? Abraham waited 25 years for Isaac. Hannah wept year after year at the temple until her miracle finally came. Anna, the prophetess, was 84 when she held the Messiah in her aged arms and proclaimed his glory to all Jerusalem. 84 years of faithful waiting, and her greatest moment came when the world thought she was done. But here's what breaks my heart. Here's what makes me want to reach through this screen and shake you awake. You're sitting there right now, believing that your grandchildren's silence means you don't matter, that your slower walk means you're falling behind, that your wrinkled hands can't carry the weight of divine assignment anymore. Stop. Just stop believing that poison. Every gray hair on your head is a crown of wisdom that young people would pay fortunes to possess. Every line on your face is a map of battles you've survived, battles that would have destroyed weaker souls. Every tear you've cried in secret has been collected in heaven's bottles, and God doesn't waste water. He's about to pour it out as rain over the drought of your latter years. If you're still breathing, God is still building. Your lungs expanding right now, that's not biology. That's prophecy. Your heart beating in your chest, that's not circulation, that's confirmation. You are not winding down, beloved. You are being wound up for the most important act of your entire existence. Remember that winter field I told you about at the beginning? That frozen ground that looked dead but was hiding seeds beneath the surface? That's not just a metaphor, that's your life. December 6 is the day the thaw begins. It's the day heaven breathes warm wind across the barren places of your story and says, "Bloom now. Show them what I've been growing in the dark." You've spent decades feeling invisible, watching younger people get promoted while you got passed over, seeing your friends' grandchildren visit while yours forget to call, believing that God's favor skipped your generation and landed on someone else's doorstep. But what if, and hear me clearly, what if every closed door, every delayed answer, every year of waiting was God protecting you from blessing you weren't mature enough to steward? What if He was saving His best wine for last, and you are the cup He's been preparing to fill when the time was finally right? Caleb was 85 when he declared, "Give me this mountain, not give me a rocking chair, not give me peace and quiet to fade away. Give me this mountain, the hardest, highest, most impossible challenge left to conquer." And God gave it to him because age doesn't disqualify you from battle. Age confirms your endurance. It proves you're still standing when others fell. It demonstrates that you've learned to fight not with youthful strength, but with ancient wisdom and unshakable faith. The miracle of December 6 isn't coming to make your life easier. It's coming to make your life matter. It's coming to prove that the God who called you before you were born hasn't changed His mind just because you've changed your hair color. It's coming because heaven needs what only a tested, tried, refined warrior can carry, and you, dear chosen one, you are that warrior. Your survival wasn't luck. Your endurance wasn't stubbornness. Your refusal to quit when everything screamed, "Give up," that was divine assignment recognizing itself in your DNA. So, let me ask you the question that will determine everything about your December 6. Or are you finally ready to believe the truth that you're right on time? Now listen to me very carefully, chosen one, because what I'm about to tell you could mean the difference between receiving everything God has prepared for you and watching it slip through your fingers like sand. December 6 is not the end of your story. It's the beginning of your most dangerous 3 days. You see, every single time God moves powerfully in someone's life, heaven opens a window. But here's what they don't teach you in Sunday school. When heaven opens a window, hell opens a door. The enemy doesn't attack you when you're weak and defeated. No, beloved, he waits, he watches. He strikes the moment after your breakthrough, when you're still catching your breath, when you think the battle is finally over. Let me ask you something that's going to cut deep. Why is it that the moment something good happens, something bad follows? Why did you get that diagnosis right after your grandchild was born? Why did your spouse pass just when you thought you'd finally have time together? Why does every blessing in your life seem to come wrapped in a battle? Because every miracle day is followed by a testing day. Think about Jesus for a moment. After his baptism, when heaven opened and the Father declared, "This is my beloved Son," what happened next? Matthew 4:1 tells us, "Then Jesus was led by the Spirit into the wilderness to be tempted by the devil." Immediately. Not eventually. Not someday. The very next verse. From the greatest affirmation of his identity straight into 40 days of warfare. You think that was coincidence? You think the timing was random? Here's the pattern heaven operates by: blessing, then battle; promotion, then persecution; miracle, then testing. And December 7, 8, and 9 are your testing days. These 3 days will determine whether you keep what God gives you on December 6, or whether the enemy steals it before you even understand what you received. Let me paint you a picture that will shake you awake. After the rain falls, what happens to the soil? It becomes soft, pliable, ready to receive. But here's what you need to understand: when soil is soft, both seeds and weeds try to grow. When your heart is tender from God's touch, when your spirit is open from receiving His blessing, you become the most fertile ground you've ever been. And the enemy knows this. He's been studying you for 70, 80, 90 years. He knows exactly when to plant doubt. He knows precisely when to whisper fear. He knows the perfect moment to make you question whether what happened on December 6 was real or just your imagination playing tricks on an aging mind. This is why so many believers lose their miracles within days of receiving them. They get the breakthrough, they feel the shift, they experience the touch of God, and then 3 days later they're right back where they started, not because God took it back, but because they didn't guard what they received. Look at the resurrection. Jesus didn't rise immediately, did he? 3 days in the tomb, 3 days of silence, 3 days when his disciples thought everything was lost, 3 days when the enemy celebrated victory. But what was really happening in those 3 days? Unseen movement, hidden victory. The greatest comeback in human history was being prepared in absolute darkness. John 20:1 says, "Early on the first day of the week, while it was still dark, Mary Magdalene went to the tomb." Still dark. The victory was complete, but it was still hidden. The tomb was already empty, but nobody knew yet. That's your December 7, 8, and 9. Heaven will be moving in the darkness. Angels will be positioning pieces you can't see. God will be orchestrating circumstances you can't perceive. But it will feel like silence. It will feel like nothing's happening. It will feel like maybe you imagined the whole thing. And this is exactly when most people quit. I need you to hear something that might terrify you, but you need to know it. Spiritual attack after breakthrough isn't punishment, it's confirmation. When the enemy comes after you with everything he's got in these 3 days, he's not attacking weakness, he's attacking the threat you've become. You didn't get attacked this hard when you were defeated and comfortable, did you? But now that heaven has touched you, now that something shifted on December 6, suddenly warfare intensifies. That's not bad news, beloved. That's proof you're carrying something hell is terrified of. But here's the urgency. You must grasp these 3 days require something from you. You cannot be passive. You cannot coast. After the rain, the soil is soft, and you must be vigilant about what gets planted. Fear will try to plant. Doubt will try to take root. Discouragement will attempt to grow like a weed and choke out everything God just deposited in your spirit. 1 Peter 5-8 warns us, "Be alert and of sober mind. Your enemy the devil prowls around like a roaring lion looking for someone to devour." Be alert, not next week, not when you feel like it, right now. In these 3 days between miracle and manifestation, you must know what happens in these 3 days. Ignore them and you might lose everything God prepared. Treat them carelessly and the blessing slips away. But guard them, protect them, stay alert during them. Then what God gave you on December 6 becomes permanent, unshakable, and generational. If you're ready for the truth about these 3 days, if you're willing to stand guard over what heaven deposits in your life, type Amen right now. Because heaven does not bless without guarding the blessing, but you have to cooperate with the guard. And what I'm about to show you next will reveal exactly how to protect what God is giving you, because the 7th miracle. It's not what you think. You know what nobody tells you about getting older? It's not the aching joints or the pills you take every morning. It's the invisible war that intensifies when everyone else thinks you should be at peace. Listen to me carefully, chosen one. You've been under spiritual attack for years. Not the kind they preach about in Sunday school. I'm talking about the silent siege. The kind that makes you wake up at 3 a.m. with your heart racing for no reason. The kind that whispers you're a burden to your children. The kind that makes you forget why you walked into a room, but never lets you forget the mistakes you made 40 years ago. You've suffered losses no one knows but God. You've buried dreams with your spouse. You've watched your body betray you one diagnosis at a time. You've felt your grandchildren's eyes glaze over when you try to share the wisdom that cost you decades to learn. And through it all, you kept saying, "God, I'm still here. What am I still here for?" But here's what breaks my heart, and here's what the enemy is banking on. The moment God begins to move in your life, the moment December 6 starts appearing in your spirit like a beacon, that's when hell doubles down. That's when the attacks don't decrease, they intensify. You thought breakthrough meant relief. But breakthrough means warfare. Let me show you the enemy's playbook, because he's been running the same schemes since the Garden of Eden. First, he sends confusion. Suddenly, you can't remember if you took your medication. You forget appointments you never used to miss. Your thoughts feel foggy, scattered, unreliable, and that voice starts whispering, "See, you're losing it." God can't use someone who can't even remember what day it is. That's not age, beloved, that's attack. Then comes the doubt. You start questioning everything. Did I really hear from God? Was that prophecy real or just wishful thinking? Maybe I'm too old for miracles. Maybe December 6 is just another day and I'm fooling myself. The doubt doesn't come screaming, it comes as reasonable concern. It dresses up as wisdom. It sounds like your own voice. But here's how you know it's demonic. God's voice brings clarity, even when it challenges you. The enemy's voice brings confusion, even when it flatters you. Third wave old memories resurface. Suddenly, you're remembering things you thought you'd forgiven 50 years ago. That betrayal, that failure, that moment of weakness that shamed you. They play like movies in your mind, crystal clear, as if they happened yesterday. Why now? Why, when you're finally feeling hope again, does your past come flooding back? Because the enemy knows something about December 6 that you're just beginning to understand. He knows that what God is about to release through you will undo decades of His work. So He's trying to disqualify you with your history before you can step into your destiny. Then comes the loneliness, the suffocating kind. Your phone doesn't ring. Your children are too busy. Even at church you feel invisible. You sit in your living room and the silence is so loud it screams. And that voice says, if God really cared, would He let you feel this forgotten? Listen to what I'm about to tell you. The enemy always roars loudest right before the Lion of Judah walks into the room. Job knew this. Right before his restoration, his wife told him to curse God and die. His friends accused him of hidden sin. His body was covered in boils. But Job 42:10 tells us, after Job had prayed for his friends, the Lord restored his fortunes and gave him twice as much as he had before. The attack intensified right before the breakthrough doubled. David understood this. 1 Samuel 30 records that when David and his men returned to Ziklag, they found it burned to the ground. Their wives and children were captured. His own men talked about stoning him. This was David's darkest hour, but it happened right before he became king. The attack came at the threshold. Even Jesus faced his most vicious warfare right before his greatest victory. Luke 22:31 records Jesus telling Peter, "Satan has asked to sift all of you as wheat." When did this happen? The night before the crucifixion. The night before everything changed. The attack peaked right before the resurrection. You feel that physical heaviness, that weight on your chest when you wake up, that exhaustion that sleep doesn't fix. That's not just your body aging. That's spiritual resistance. You're pushing against principalities that have held territory in your bloodline for generations, and they're not giving up without a fight. But here's the mystery the enemy doesn't want you to grasp. The intensity of the attack is confirmation of the anointing. Hell doesn't waste ammunition on empty threats. The devil doesn't deploy his best demons against people who pose no danger to his kingdom. The fact that you're under siege right now, the fact that doubt is screaming, memories are flooding, confusion is thick, loneliness is crushing, that's not evidence that you're losing. That's evidence that you're dangerous. That's proof that December 6 carries something so powerful. Hell is terrified of what happens when you receive it. In the next section, I'll reveal how to recognize the enemy's next 3 traps, and more importantly, how heaven has already trained you to overcome them. Because chosen one, you didn't survive 70, 80, 90 years of warfare by accident. Every battle you've won, every storm you've weathered, every night you made it through, that was boot camp for this moment. Comment right now, "I will not lose what God gave me." Because the attack isn't your ending. The attack is confirmation that your anointing just went active. And when December 6 arrives, hell is going to learn what happens when God's chosen ones refuse to surrender. But first, you need to understand the 3 traps coming next, and why your age is actually your greatest weapon against them. Now, listen to me carefully, chosen one, because what I'm about to reveal will save you from losing everything God is preparing to give you on December 6. You see, the enemy knows something you're just beginning to understand. He knows that when heaven marks a date, when the Almighty circles December 6 on the eternal calendar and whispers your name over it, hell doesn't just sit back and watch. No, the devil mobilizes. And his strategy is always the same. He doesn't attack before the blessing. He attacks immediately after the sign. Why? Because he's terrified of what happens when you actually receive what God promised. So let me tell you exactly what's coming between December 7 and December 9. 3 traps. 3 ancient weapons dressed up in new clothing. And if you don't recognize them, they will steal your miracle before you ever hold it in your hands. Trap number 1. The emotional whiplash. You're going to wake up on December 7, maybe December 8, and something will feel wrong. After days of peace, after feeling that stirring in your spirit, after sensing God's presence so clearly it made you weep suddenly, you'll feel nothing. Worse than nothing. You'll feel sad, heavy, unworthy. You'll look in the mirror and that old voice will whisper, "Who are you kidding? God doesn't do miracles for people like you. You're too broken, too old, too far gone." This is the whiplash, beloved, and it's not random. The Apostle Paul warned us in Ephesians 6:12. We wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers. The moment you experienced peace on December 6, you became a target. The enemy saw what you received in the spirit realm, and now he's trying to convince you it wasn't real. But let me tell you something that will anchor your soul. Feelings are not facts. Your emotions are not prophecy. That sudden sadness crushing your chest, that's not God changing his mind. That's hell panicking because you're about to walk into something they can't stop. You felt peace because peace was real. You felt God because God was there. And the fact that you now feel attacked, that's proof the blessing is still coming. Trap number 2, old voices resurfacing. Here's where it gets specific, and I need you to pay attention because this one catches even the strongest believers off guard. Between December 7 and December 9, someone from your past is going to reach out. Could be a phone call, could be a message, could be running into someone you haven't seen in years. And the moment you hear their voice, something inside you will shift. It might be the child who abandoned you suddenly wanting to check in. It might be the friend who betrayed you, acting like nothing ever happened. It might be a memory so vivid it feels like yesterday, that failure from 1987, that mistake from 2003, that moment of weakness you thought you'd buried forever. Guilt will rise up like bile in your throat. Shame will wrap around you like chains, and you'll think, maybe I don't deserve what God is trying to give me. Maybe my past disqualifies my future. Stop right there. The enemy has no new weapons, only recycled lies dressed in fresh shadows. He's bringing up your past because he knows your future is about to bury it. He's reminding you of who you were because he's terrified of who you're becoming. Listen to what God says in Isaiah 43:25. I, even I, am he that blotteth out thy transgressions for my own sake, and will not remember thy sins. If God doesn't remember it, why are you letting the devil remind you of it? That voice from the past isn't coincidence. That memory resurfacing isn't random, it's strategic warfare. And the fact that it's happening right after December 6 tells you everything you need to know. Your blessing is so close that hell is throwing everything it has at you to make you walk away from it. Trap number 3, the illusion of delay. This is the deadliest one, beloved, because it disguises itself as wisdom. You'll wake up on December 9 and look around. The bills are still there. Your phone still isn't ringing. Your body still aches. Your circumstances look exactly the same. And a thought will creep into your mind like poison. Nothing happened. I imagined the whole thing. The signs weren't real. I got my hopes up again like a fool. This is the illusion of delay, and it has destroyed more miracles than any other weapon in hell's arsenal. But let me tell you what's really happening. When God promises something, it's already done in the spirit realm before you ever see it in the natural. Abraham was promised a son at 75, but Isaac wasn't born until Abraham was 100. 25 years, but the promise was real the entire time. The fact that you don't see it yet doesn't mean it's not coming. The fact that nothing changed on December 7 doesn't mean nothing changed on December 6. Your miracle isn't late. You're just learning to walk by faith and not by sight. 2 Corinthians 5-7 says it plainly, we walk by faith, not by sight. Your eyes will lie to you. Your circumstances will mock you. Your mind will question you. But your spirit knows the truth. Something shifted on December 6, and hell can't reverse what heaven has already released. If you faced any of these traps, if you recognize the emotional whiplash, the old voices, or the illusion of delay type 777 as a sign that you recognize the spiritual battle. Because here's the truth that will set you free. Awareness destroys deception. The moment you see the trap, you step around it. The moment you recognize the pattern, you break the cycle. The moment you understand that these 3 weapons are coming, they lose their power. But there's something else you need to know, something the enemy desperately hopes you never discover. These 3 traps aren't just attacks, they're confirmations. And what I'm about to show you next will turn your entire perspective upside down. You know what haunts you most at 3 a.m.? It's not the arthritis in your knees or the medication bottles lined up on your nightstand. It's the silence, that deafening quiet when you lie there wondering if anyone anywhere is thinking about you. If your prayers are hitting the ceiling and falling back down like dead weight. If God has moved on to younger, more useful vessels while you're just waiting to die. Let me tell you something that's going to shatter that lie right now. While you toss and turn in that darkness, while you replay every regret and wonder if December 6 is just another empty promise, something extraordinary is happening in the realm you cannot see. Heaven is not sleeping. Heaven is not distracted. Heaven is not scrolling through a younger generation looking for better options. Heaven is working the night shift over your life. Listen to me carefully, chosen one. Psalm 91:11 declares, "He shall give his angels charge over you to keep you in all your ways, not some of your ways, not your good days, all your ways." That means right now, in your loneliness, in your doubt, in your middle of the night terror that you've been forgotten, there are angels standing guard over promises. God spoke over you before you even drew breath. You think you're alone? You've never been alone for a single second of your entire life. Think about it this way. When someone you love is in the hospital, critically ill, what happens? The doctors and nurses don't clock out just because the sun goes down. No, they bring in the night shift, the most vigilant ones, the ones who check vitals every hour, who monitor every beep and blip, who stand watch when the patient is too weak to open their eyes. That's what's happening over you right now. Angels are like night shift nurses for your soul. While your body grows weary, while your mind whispers lies about your irrelevance, while the world sleeps and forgets, heaven's emergency room is fully staffed and laser-focused on you. But here's what breaks my heart. Here's what makes me want to reach through this screen and shake you by the shoulders. You've been so busy mourning what you've lost that you haven't noticed what's been guarded. Your children may have stopped calling, but heaven hasn't stopped covering. Your church may have forgotten your name, but God's angels know your address by heart. Every morning you wake up is evidence of divine protection. Every breath in your lungs is proof that your assignment isn't finished. Every beat of your heart is heaven saying, "Not yet. We're not done with this one yet." Do you understand what I'm telling you? The very fact that you're still here after the heart attack, after the diagnosis, after burying everyone you loved, after the Depression and World War II and Kennedy and 9/11 and COVID and every single thing that tried to take you out, the fact that you're still here is not luck. It's not stubbornness. It's supernatural intervention. You think your body is weak? Heaven sees a fortress that's withstood 80 years of hell's assault. You think your mind is tired? God sees a library of wisdom that this foolish generation desperately needs. You think you're fading? The Almighty sees you coming into the sharpest focus of your entire existence. But let me tell you what the enemy is terrified of. He's not afraid of your strength. He knows your knees don't work like they used to. He's not afraid of your energy. He knows you need a nap by 2 p.m. What absolutely terrifies the forces of darkness is this. You know too much. You've seen too much. You've survived too much. You're a living witness that God keeps His promises, even when it takes decades. You're breathing proof that what looks like the end is just God clearing the stage for His grand finale. Isaiah 46:4 says, "Even to your old age I am He, and even to grey hairs I will carry you. I have made, and I will bear, even I will carry, and will deliver you." Did you catch that? God doesn't just tolerate your aging, He specializes in it. Your grey hair isn't your weakness, it's His signature. It's Him saying, "I've carried this one through everything, and I'm not stopping now." Right now, while you're listening to my voice, there are angelic forces repositioning around your life. While you've been worrying about December 6, heaven has been preparing for it. While you've been wondering if you matter, the courts of eternity have been ruling in your favor. So here's what I need you to do. Don't wait, don't overthink it. Right now, wherever you are, I want you to whisper these words out loud. God, keep watch over my promise. Say it like you mean it. Say it like you're 8 years old again and you still believed in miracles. Say it like your next breath depends on it, because chosen one, it does. Because your blessing isn't just coming. Your blessing is being guarded more fiercely than Fort Knox, more carefully than the crown jewels, more intensely than a mother bear protecting her cubs. Hell itself has tried to steal it, delay it, destroy it, but every single attack has failed. And on December 6, you're about to find out why. You've been waiting for the breakthrough. You've been praying for the door to open. You've been believing that December 6 would be the day everything finally shifts. And it will be. But what I'm about to tell you might shock you. The biggest miracles don't arrive on December 6, they arrive after. Let me explain something that will change how you see the rest of your life. Most believers think God's favor shows up like a lightning bolt, sudden, dramatic, unmistakable. But that's not how the Father operates in the lives of His seasoned warriors. For you, dear one, the blessing doesn't arrive as a knock on the door. It arrives as a sunrise. Think about that for a moment. When does a sunrise begin? Not when you first notice it. It begins in the darkness, in the hours before dawn, when you're still lying awake, wondering if morning will ever come. The light doesn't explode into your bedroom. It seeps in, slowly, steadily, undeniably. That's what's coming for you after December 6. The second wave of miracles. Miracle 4 is unexpected favor. I'm talking about the kind of favor that makes no earthly sense. You'll walk into a bank expecting rejection, and they'll approve what they denied 6 months ago. You'll run into someone you haven't seen in 20 years, and that conversation will open a door you didn't even know existed. Favor isn't something you chase, beloved. It's something that hunts you down when God decides it's your season. But here's what breaks my heart. Some of you have been rejected so many times, you've stopped expecting favor. You've trained yourself not to hope, because hope hurts when it doesn't deliver. Proverbs 13:12 says, "Hope deferred makes the heart sick." Your heart is sick right now, isn't it? Sick of waiting, sick of believing, sick of watching others receive what you've been praying for. But after December 6, that sickness ends. Favor finds you in the produce aisle. Favor finds you checking your mailbox. Favor finds you in conversations you weren't even planning to have. And when it comes, you won't have to convince anyone you're worthy. They'll just know. Miracle 5 is unexpected clarity. For years, maybe decades, you've been walking in fog. Confusion about your purpose, uncertainty about your next steps, questions about whether you heard God correctly back when you were younger. But after December 6, something shifts in your spiritual vision. It's like someone turns on stadium lights in your soul. You'll wake up one morning and suddenly understand why that door closed in 1987. You'll be sitting in your kitchen, and the reason for that betrayal in 2003 will become crystal clear. Isaiah 30:21 promises, "Whether you turn to the right or to the left, your ears will hear a voice behind you saying, 'This is the way, walk in it.'" That voice has been whispering to you for years. After December 6, you'll finally hear it clearly. But clarity isn't comfortable, chosen one, because once you see it, you can't unsee it. Once you understand why God allowed what He allowed, you'll have to surrender the bitterness you've been nursing. Are you ready for that kind of clarity? Are you ready to release the anger that's kept you warm all these cold years? Miracle 6 is unexpected renewal of strength. Listen to me carefully. Your body may be slowing down, but your spirit is about to speed up. Isaiah 40:31 doesn't say, "Those who wait on the Lord shall get slightly better." It says, "They shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles." Renew means to make new again. God is about to give you energy you haven't felt in 20 years. I'm not talking about running marathons. I'm talking about waking up without that crushing weight on your chest. I'm talking about making it through the afternoon without needing a 3-hour nap. I'm talking about your mind being sharp again, your memory returning, your passion for life reigniting like someone struck a match in your soul. The enemy wants you to believe your best years are buried in yesterday. But what if God saved your strongest years for last? What if everything before this was just warm-up? What if the real race begins after December 6? And then comes Miracle 7, unexpected peace. Not the kind of peace that depends on your circumstances lining up perfectly. Not the peace that disappears when the phone rings with bad news. I'm talking about the peace that Paul described in Philippians 4-7, the peace that surpasses all understanding. The peace that makes no sense to anyone watching your life from the outside. Your children might still be distant. Your bank account might still be tight. Your health might still need prayer. But you'll have peace, deep, unshakable, ridiculous peace that can only come from knowing, truly knowing, that God has you in the palm of His hand and nothing can pluck you out. But there is a final miracle you must hear, the miracle heaven kept for last, the one that will make everything you've suffered make sense. The miracle you thought you lost is the one returning multiplied. If you're ready for the final miracle, if you're still here, still breathing, still believing, after everything life has thrown at you, type in the comments right now, "I'm still here," because what comes next will prove why you had to survive everything you've survived to get to this moment. The final word, you were chosen for this moment, chosen one. As we come to the end of this sacred moment together, I need you to hold on to 3 truths that will anchor your soul in the days ahead. First, December 6 is not just another date on your calendar, it's a divine marker. Heaven has circled it. The 7 miracles we've walked through aren't fantasy or wishful thinking. They're prophetic reality being downloaded into your life right now. The divine interruption has already begun. The supernatural encounter is in motion. The generational breakthrough is cracking open. And the second wave, that sunrise of favor, clarity, strength, and peace is coming, whether you feel ready or not. Second, the miracle you thought you lost is returning multiplied. Everything the enemy stole while you were too tired to fight back, too broken to stand up, too old to believe it could still happen, God is bringing it back. Not in the same form, but in greater measure. What you buried in grief is about to resurrect in glory. Third, your age is not your limitation, it's your authority. Every wrinkle on your face is a battle scar from wars you won. Every gray hair is a crown of wisdom earned through decades of faithfulness. You are not winding down. You are finally stepping into the season God has been preparing you for your entire life. But I need you to hear something deeper than doctrine, something that settles in your bones. You are not walking this path alone. Right now, as you listen to my voice, the God who spoke galaxies into existence is speaking your name. He hasn't forgotten you. He hasn't moved on to younger, stronger vessels. You are His chosen one, and what He starts, He finishes. And beyond God's presence, you have us, this community of believers who understand your journey because we're walking it too. We're not just viewers on a screen, we're family, we're warriors, we're chosen ones, recognizing each other across the digital wilderness. When you feel alone, come back here. Read these comments, see these testimonies. You belong here. So let me ask you this final question, and let it echo in your spirit long after this video ends. If God has brought you through every valley, every storm, every night that felt like it would never end, why would He abandon you now at the threshold of your greatest chapter? Now, before I release you, I want to do something. I want you to close your eyes wherever you are. If you're sitting, place your hand on your heart. If you're lying down, just breathe. Because I'm about to pray over you with the authority of someone who has walked with God through fire and watched Him prove faithful every single time. Heavenly Father, I come before your throne right now, lifting up every precious soul who has stayed with us through this entire message. Lord, you see them, you know their names. You've counted every tear, heard every desperate prayer, felt every moment of loneliness that's crushed their chest at 3 a.m. Father, I pray that you would release the 7 miracles over their lives starting December 6. Let divine interruption shatter every barrier that's held them back. Let supernatural encounters remind them they're not forgotten. Let generational breakthroughs destroy every curse that's haunted their family line. Let spiritual authority rise up in their voices when they pray. Let unexpected favor hunt them down in grocery stores and doctors' offices. Let clarity cut through decades of confusion. Let strength renew in bodies that thought they were done. And let your peace, that ridiculous, unreasonable peace, guard their hearts and minds. God, open doors that no man can shut. Provide resources they haven't even thought to ask for. Send divine connections that will change their trajectory. Give them dreams and visions that will guide their steps. Surround them with people who see their value and honor their wisdom. And Father, most of all, let them feel you right now. Let them know in their spirit that you are proud of them. Proud of how they've kept going when quitting would have been easier. Proud of how they've kept believing when doubt screamed louder. Proud of every morning they chose to get up and try again. In Jesus' mighty name, the name above every name, the name that silences hell and activates heaven, I seal this prayer over their lives. Amen. Now, I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below and tell us what God spoke to your heart today. Ask questions. Share your testimony. Let this community surround you with prayer and encouragement. And please, share this message with someone who needs to hear it. A friend, a family member, someone sitting alone right now, wondering if their life still matters. If you haven't already, subscribe to this channel and ring that notification bell. You're not just subscribing to content, you're joining a family of chosen ones who refuse to give up. Thank you for staying with me through this entire journey. Thank you for opening your heart. Thank you for still being here. December 6 is coming, and so is your miracle. Until we meet again, walk in the authority of who you are. You are chosen, you are loved, you are never alone. God bless you mightily, beloved. Your finest hour has arrived.